This has to be one of the best title screen theme songs in all of video games. And yet, I bet most of you haven't even played this game, let alone even know what it is. If I had to point to one obscure game from my childhood that I feel flew under the radar, it'd be Jet Force Gemini. Developed and published by Rare back in 1999 for the Nintendo 64. I know that it sold 1 million copies, but I think it's better. I feel like Jet Force was ahead of its time in many aspects of gaming, and also suffered greatly because it was stuck to the N64. And it was a shooter game that came out before the dudes at Bungie solved the console shooter controls with Halo. I want to state up front that I played this game on Rare Replay for the Xbox One, and I feel very strongly that this game is awful to control without modern controls that Rare Replay offers. Playing on an N64 controller is clunky, aiming is impossible, and I remember hating that the most as a kid. The modern control makeover has done this game wonders. So aside from the old crappy controls and a few other things, Jet Force Gemini has aged quite well. Once again, I did play this on Rare Replay, and that's why you see Vela cheeked up the entire time, because this game comes with this cool border. I remember playing this game a ton as a kid. Despite the jank controls, I remember really liking this game and was quite pleased with how much I remembered as a kid playing it now. As much as I liked Jet Force, I never beat it as a kid. It's a hard video game, and I was like 5, and my dad hated the game, so I had no help.
Gemini, Jet Force or something?
Yeah, Jet Force Gemini.
This game was a pile of shit.
Why?
This game sucked. Oh yeah, I remember the dog. Oh yeah, the ants. I remember it. Yeah, this game sucked.
What was your favorite Nintendo game on the 64?
GoldenEye or Zelda.
GoldenEye or Zelda?
Oh no, it had to be Excitebike.
Oh, Excitebike 64?
Yeah, that was the best game. Well, GoldenEye was really good.
I'd progress each campaign to the boss fights and get stuck and give up. As I got older, I kept at it with fighting the bosses, and eventually I beat the Mantis duo with Lupus, and later beat the Flying Beetle with Vela. But I could never beat the big scorpion bug thing with Juno. Once I got to high school, I remember taking another crack at this game and finally beating Juno's boss, and then the first Mizar fight. Then the little bear bastard hit me with the, save all my bears or I ain't giving you the part you need to the ship to save Earth. I mean, come on, it's just business. I never found all the parts or all the bears, and once again hit the failure button with Jet Force Gemini. Now being in my late 20s, which makes me want to puke, I decided to take another crack at Jet Force Gemini to see if I can beat it. Spoilers, I did, and now I want to tell you why Jet Force Gemini was way ahead of its time. Jet Force is a third-person shooter adventure game, and it scratches a lot of my itches when it comes to gaming. The shooting feels great, there's lots of guns and weapons to discover and unlock, exploration feels very rewarding, and there are collectibles too. Shooting has to be one of the best parts about this game, which ironically was the part that I and many others hated the most about the original. There isn't much more satisfying than blasting ants' heads off with a machine gun. One of the biggest fun factors when it comes to shooter video games is how fun is it to fight the enemies, and does it feel good? There are plenty of examples where the combat does not feel fun. Some modern versions of not fun for me personally would be fighting the Prometheans in Halo 4, where the enemies just felt like bullet sponges and were very cheap to fight. Gears 4 was also another one that I just didn't enjoy the combat, fighting lots of robots instead of fighting the Locust hordes. One of my favorite modern shooters right now that feels so good fighting the enemies is surprisingly Halo Infinite. It's satisfying blasting the banished forces, and it's all the types of enemies that feel good killing. Headshotting a brute feels good, headshotting a grunt has always felt good and continues to feel good. Anyway, the point is if the enemies you are fighting doesn't feel good, you aren't going to have a good time. Fighting the drones in Jet Force feels really good. Most of the time. Your regular run-of-the-mill drones with blasters that run around all hectic like are fun to fight and don't take much to kill, especially if you get headshots. You can very easily pop the heads off, and once you do, their heads actually become a collectible. So the game encourages you to get headshots. Collect enough heads and you can unlock secret modes like Rainbow Blood, Jet Force Kids, and Ants in the Pants. The enemies that were not so much fun to fight were the ants that carried big shields. They were pretty tough to kill if you didn't have explosives, because there isn't much of the ant exposed. There were ants that had smaller shields, which weren't tough at all. There was a bit more of their head exposed, so killing them was nothing. You also had bigger general ants that took more bullets to kill and usually had rocket launchers. You can also shoot their heads off too. The only game that may be more fun for me personally shooting heads off would probably be Resident Evil 4. Nothing beats the satisfaction you get from popping a head in that game.
Yeah.
Very terrifying. That was nice. That's the first clean headshot I've got. I'm not a psycho, I promise. The sandbox of Jet Force is actually quite big as far as the items you can use to kill the enemies. You get a pistol, which is pretty powerful and holds lots of bullets, but can overheat if you fire too many shots at once. It's not really overheating, but I'm not sure what to call it. Fire too many shots and you have to let the pistol recharge. There is no reloading in Jet Force. Shoot until you are out of bullets. The machine gun was definitely my favorite and probably the most powerful weapon overall. Lining up a bunch of ants or flying drones overhead and blasting away was great. You get a charged shotgun, a sniper, 2 different rocket launchers, throwing stars, mines, grenades, a zapper gun, and flares that actually prove to be more useful than you would think. The rockets and grenades can completely delete enemies that you are fighting, turning them into body parts and guts instantaneously. Headshots with the sniper felt good. Throwing the shuriken was not real practical, but funny nonetheless. The list of guns you get are great and fun to mess around with, and can all come in handy at some point. The grenades were also pretty interesting as well, specifically because when an ant winds up to chuck a grenade at you, you see the big blue cylinder in their hands, and you can shoot it, blowing up the ant and any other comrades it has near. I'm not really sure how many shooters in the 90s actually had this particular game mechanic. The game is very bloody as far as the ants and the little bears are concerned. You yourself don't get to see any of your blood and your head never gets shot off, but the ants and bears is open season. Yeah, you can shoot and kill bears and red blood squirts everywhere. Not recommended killing the bears because they are a main collectible, but sometimes they get caught in the crossfire or get hit by a stray grenade. As bombs go off, it's not uncommon to see arms and legs along with guns and heads with green blood flying all over the battlefield. Sometimes explosions happen and you weren't the cause, but you see the aftermath. Game rated T for teen, everyone. It's cartoony gore, so it ain't that bad, right? There is a cutscene you watch where a little bear gets smashed by a ship right in front of his homies the day the ants invaded. The AI of the ants can be quite stupid. There were several instances that there'd be 4 or 5 ants literally inside one another because there isn't many programmable routes that the enemy could take. 5 would be lined up and I'd headshot all of them in seconds, or I'd shoot a missile and blow them up. Watching a few of them play follow the leader was quite comical. In each level you go to, you can find guns and weapons along with keys, bears, ammo upgrades, and health upgrades. There are life force gems which replenish your health when you take damage, keys you find to open doors and unlock more secrets, and of course, the most annoying part of the game is all of the bears you have to collect, which I will complain about in a second. In the beginning of the game, you start out as Juno and have to find and rescue Vela and Lupus. Once rescued, you have to unlock their campaign levels and have to recollect every gun and key, but from different levels. You don't share collectibles amongst the 3, so if Juno has the blue key card, that don't mean that Lupus has it. Once you complete each level and make it to the end of the game, you can take any character to any level you'd like. And sometimes you have to take more than one character to a level to find every bear. Going back to the 100%ing the game part and how annoying it was. Once you beat every boss and fight the first Mizar fight, you have to find every ship part and save every bear in the game, so backtracking is required. Now, I was able to find a lot of the tribals my first go around, but there are certain parts that only certain characters can get to. Vela can swim underwater, and there are only certain levels that she can access, as well as Lupus has hovering jet boots that allow him to get to certain areas, and Juno can walk in lava. While going through the end of the game and combing over levels, I'd find that I'd hit a certain point where I'd only need a bear or 2, but I couldn't collect them with whatever character I had selected, so I'd have to switch and play the level over again in its entirety. After this happened twice, I just pulled up a guide that would tell me exactly which character, or characters, could complete the level and would have the right keys to complete the level. Honestly, if you want to avoid putting in who knows how many extra hours trying to complete the end game, I'd recommend looking up a guide because some of these stages can be upwards of 30 minutes or so. The first time going through and exploring the levels and finding secrets and weapons and bears was fun. When you aren't required to explore, it feels more rewarding than when the game forces you to do so. I like finding secrets that not everyone finds. I want to be different. The first time I found a secret exit that took me to a different planet entirely, I thought, wow, this is really neat. I found this on my own. And then as soon as I found out there are bears here and you have to collect them, I thought, oh, it's a forced secret. This might just be a me problem, but I love secrets and rewards so much more when they aren't required. Maybe it's some psychological thing with the way the human brain is, and maybe more people feel this way too, or maybe I'm just a weirdo. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. There is actually a kind of fun, but not really, co-op mode baked into the game where you find 3 parts to this little helicopter guy named Floyd. Once you build him, player 2 gets to control his aimer and shoot. If you play single player though, Floyd just hovers over and watches you take bullets to the face. I wish in single player they programmed Floyd to assist in the combat, like shoot a little bit. The co-op isn't great, but I guess it is better than nothing. I do remember playing this as a kid and letting my sisters play. It was fun because they couldn't really screw anything up other than if they accidentally shot some bears. But it was still a way they could play the game with me. The only thing he is kinda good for in single player is telling you when enemies are around. He changes color, and then you can complete Floyd flying missions, which were not really that good. Piloting him around was tough, and it's even harder with the older controls. It does change up the gameplay though. One of the benefits of this game being developed by Rare was there was lots of ideas that were thrown at it, and I very much enjoyed that. There are these pads that you can actually morph into an ant disguising yourself and allows you to enter a speeder race, which was pretty fun. You can also enter this ant nightclub, which is hilarious watching these bugs tear a rug to some disco jams. You can also decide to just shoot up the nightclub. Game's rated T for teen, everyone. The level design's pretty good, despite these graphics aging like milk. Going through and exploring most of the levels was fun. You traverse jungles, spaceships and space stations, inside a giant worm, snow planets, and much more. There is one area on a planet you go to with Lupus, and you find this doghouse with bones and limbs lying all over. As you are left wondering what the heck kind of monster did this, a big dog comes out of nowhere and attacks you. You go into the big hut next to it, and the guy says, yeah, that's my little monster out there. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Most levels are pretty long with lots of rooms and areas to visit. The secret planets you find aren't as big, but were still fun to discover and explore. The final level with Juno might be my favorite. It has you storming an ant castle and fighting a boss at the end. The boss fights, like I mentioned earlier, were so tough for me as a kid. In order to deal damage and kill the bosses, you have to shoot certain parts of their bodies, but only when they glow, like the teeth or an antenna or a tail or something. You have to put quite a bit of shots into them, blowing up the body parts, and I think as a kid, I was just missing my shots, and I thought that the glowing part wasn't how I killed the bosses. I'm not really sure, I just know I couldn't beat any of these bosses when I was younger. A fun detail as you progress the game is the title screen changes reflecting where you are in the game. As you unlock characters, they get added, and when you get armor upgrades, it changes again. Once you beat the game, you get a sick shot of the gang walking instead of running with fireworks blowing up in the background, portraying that their sense of urgency was no more. This game is so cool. One of my favorite things as a kid was to watch the opening cutscene of Jet Force. The group is chilling when they get alerts of ants invading planets and killing bears. They are then overrun and Juno tells Vela and Lupus to get on their ships and fly out. Juno blasts a few ants and then he also escapes on his ship. This was an iconic cutscene for me, and there are many others too for you to experience. Ant armies, crying babies, slaves, and zombies. Play the game. The music in Jet Force bangs too. So many cool soundtracks that set the tone of the game. It's not a happy game. Tribals are dying, planets are falling to ruin, and it's up to Team Jet Force to save the day. The music encapsulates that for me. It's an exciting yet stressful adventure. After 20 plus years of playing this game on and off, I can finally cross this one off the list and say that I have officially beat it, and I'm happy I finally did. I wouldn't let the 100% endgame stuff deter you from playing. The combat is a blast, slaying hordes of ants, and the exploration is great. There are plenty of secrets to find, weapons to use, and planets to visit. I've loved this game ever since I was a kid, and I'm happy to say that I still had a blast playing it all these years later. You should play Jet Force Gemini. It's a hidden gem. In I. Pound him. Pound him. Yes! Yes! Oh! 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 Oh, put her down. That's it. We're done. Head off. There's the head. Body floating. Victory! Yeah, that's all she wrote. That is it. That is Jet Force Gemini, everybody.